Oradour Sur Glane, the massacre village, where the Nazi SS Waffen unit surrounded the village on the 10th of June 1944 and commenced to shoot all the men, and then herded the women and children into the church before throwing hand grenades through the windows and setting fire to the church, killing all the occupants. A total of 642 inhabitants was killed, and the village was set on fire. Every house was totally burnt out. The village stands today in the same state as the day the massacre happened, as a memorial to all those that perished. After 70 years of sun and rain, the relics remain where they were, left on the floor. After that fateful day, the iron bedstead still lays on the ground floor after falling through the burning ceiling, where once hung curtains behind the windows. Now only the blackened gaping holes look out over the countryside. The once busy post office, an empty shell, a facade of former days. No more the busy ring of the telephone or the rattle of the train as it clattered down the main street, bringing or taking passengers to the next village. A busy, thriving community going about their everyday business, totally unaware of the ever-growing menace drawing nearer. The two village doctors, one stayed to see patients at the surgery, while the other visited patients in his own car at their home. On this dreadful day, his last visit call was just down the road from the surgery, and the car stands to this day in its same place, rusting away. Each house holds its own history, and now the main street only has the quiet tread of the visitors. Rusted steel that was once cars or agricultural machines, slowly turning back to dust year after year. Each relic tells its own story of happy days with children playing in the streets, waving to their pals, going out on the train to the next village, or a day out in the big city at Limoges. No more would a fire burn in this grate, or the laughter of children ring around these walls. The farmer's tractor stands in the garage next to the empty barn, once filled with straw and hay, while the big house sighs softly with the wind blowing through its windowless gaps. This village lay 20 miles away from the nearest city of Limoges. Nestling in thick wooded countryside, they must have felt totally remote from the war on land and sea that was raging far in the distance. The only news would have been from visitors or relations living further north or by the seaports, with the occasional letters. And now a moment of time that had turned everything upside down. They were made to watch as their men were lined up in groups and shot before their eyes. What screams of horror and anguish must have echoed through the crowded streets as their fathers, husbands and sons fell in a bloody heap. Nowhere to hide and nowhere to run to, as the Nazis raped the women before throwing them into the church, and for one brief moment they must have felt sanctuary. The hand grenades were thrown through the windows, and the scream of the dying echoed through the church. For those still alive, in the next minute the door was opened and bales of gasoline-soaked straw was thrown in on top of the bodies and set alight. As the fire raged upwards, burning through the roof supports, the spire crashed through the roof, bringing with it the large bronze bell that fell into the inferno, and the metal and the striker fused into one large lump of molten metal. The cemetery is on the site, with each family group having its own grave, and in lots of cases showing photographs of each individual lying there, with grandparents, mums and dads and their children. A new church has been built on a hill overlooking the ruins of the massacre village.